So, welcome to my review of the sixth film in the James Bond series, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, Sean Connery had left the role in 1967 upon finishing his fifth James Bond film, You Only Live Twice. The pressure got to him, I think, of not only of playing the role, but of the fact that he couldn't escape from the press during the filming of You Only Live Twice. He believed that 5 films was enough to establish himself as, one of the biggest actors in the business at the time, which was fair enough. I mean, he'd spent 5 years with the James Bond series, so it was time to move on to pastures new. So the decision eventually was to go with George Lazenby. Now, George Lazenby, although he'd lied to Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman at interview, he'd said to them, well, I've acted in loads of different films in a number of different countries. When he went to Peter Hunt, the director of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he actually explained to him, he actually said, I lied to Cubby and Harry. I'm not an actor. I've never acted before. And they literally went with George Lazenby based on his appearance and the fact that he'd done some television commercials, and he was a model as well. The fact that he was Australian as well immediately put the public against him. So George Lazenby was also slightly younger than Sean Connery as well when he played Bond. He was 28 when filming On Her Majesty's Secret Service at the end of 1968. So he had no previous acting experience, and he was pretty much pushed in at the deep end into the series. He was the second actor to play James Bond, and to follow somebody like Sean Connery is a big ask anyway, and if you've never acted before, I don't think I would have wanted to be in George Lazenby's shoes at the time. It's a big pressure to carry a series forward after the success of the Sean Connery films. So, On Her Majesty's Secret Service was originally touted as the follow-up to Goldfinger in 1964. It was to be the next film released. Originally, that's what it said on the end of the credits for Goldfinger. It said James Bond will return on Her Majesty's Secret Service. But it would take another 5 years for the film to see the light of day. Thunderball was filmed after Goldfinger, followed by You Only Live Twice, and then they decided to go back to Fleming and go back to one of the strongest stories of Fleming, actually. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of the few James Bond films that sticks very closely to Ian Fleming's original novel. And it's a great thing that it does. This time we get a human side to James Bond. I think Sean Connery and many members of the public felt that with Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, they were verging very much on James Bond sort of becoming an indestructible character, relying much more on gadgets than he did certainly in the first 2 films, in Dr. No and From Russia With Love, which in my opinion are still Connery's best in the series, and 2 of the best films in the series. But the idea is that with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, you see a more fallible side to Bond, and there are some great moments where George Lazenby actually presents this brilliantly on screen. Even though he's not an actor, he does commits himself very well to the role in some of the quieter scenes. But it's in the pre-credit sequence, immediately you get Bond thrashing around with the heavies in the water on the beach, rescuing Tracy from trying to kill herself, trying to drown in the sea, and of course you get Lazenby's line, "This never happened to the other fella," which, although cheesy, does get a good laugh. It gets a laugh from me every time I watch it. So, I mean, it is in the top 5 James Bond films, definitely. It's one of those that certainly has grown on me over the years. It was one of those where I thought, when I first began watching the films, I thought, nobody can top Sean Connery. And George Lazenby doesn't top Sean Connery, certainly, but his film really does give the first couple of Connery films a run for their money. It's a great story. It works very, very well. As I've said, it sticks very closely to Fleming's novel. And there are some great moments in the film as well. Of course, from the pre-credit sequence, a great opening, delayed presentation of Lazenby's face, so we're still not quite sure at the beginning who James Bond is in the film, and of course we do discover who he is, and he gets his line, the name's Bond, James Bond, in the pre-credits sequence as well. And we segue from there into the instrumental version of the theme on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's quite hard to get that title for the lyrics of a song. So, of course, it's John Barry's instrumental with his orchestra. It just works stunningly. It's one of the best James Bond themes. It's just instantly recognisable. It's great. And the fact that there's a lovely clock motif as well, running back in time, showing you, recapping Bond's previous adventures from Dr. No up to You Only Live Twice. Now we have a new Bond, and but we're still turning back the clock to remember Bond's previous adventures. So from there, throughout the film, there are lots of standout moments, and in terms of characters, we have Telly Savalas playing Blofeld, who presents a more physical threat than Donald Pleasance's Blofeld in You Only Live Twice. Whether Telly Savalas is more menacing, I don't know, but he certainly proves a better match to George Lazenby's Bond, certainly. Lazenby's voice was dubbed later in the film as well, where he is impersonating Sir Hilary Bray by the actor George Baker, noted British actor, who actually plays the real Sir Hilary Bray character in the film as well. So, I mean, George Lazenby does do a good job in the film. It's the only niggling part for me is the fact that we see him wearing a kilt and refer to himself as Hilly as well, to Blofeld's Angels of Death. It's hard to imagine Sean Connery saying lines like that, really, and even wearing a kilt, to be honest, as Bond. I know, of course, they've done that because of Bond's Scottish roots. He was born in the Scottish Highlands, but in Glencoe, if you've read the novels, but it still seems a little bit strange to go from Bond, the formal attire of Bond, the suits, the ties, shirts, impeccably tailored, to then see Bond wearing a kilt. It just doesn't quite add up, which is slightly unfortunate. But I suppose it works in terms of the film and in terms of the character that he is trying to emulate on the screen. We have one of John Barry's most evocative scores as well. It's one of his most influential James Bond scores in the series, and he scored a number. I mean, I think it was 11 James Bond films that John Barry scored, and On Her Majesty's Secret Service is right up there. It's in the top 3, without a doubt. And of course, we have Louis Armstrong's beautiful, beautiful song, We Have All the Time in the World, which was the last song he recorded before he passed away at the end of the 1960s. It's such a shame. Such a brilliant artist, and he sang one of my favourite songs, actually, What a Wonderful World. But again, We Have All the Time in the World, one of the most beautiful songs ever written, and just works perfectly for the film as well. Of course, in terms of characters as well, we have the most important Bond girl. We have, and the fact I've called her a Bond girl, it's a mistake, really. She is basically the first Bond woman in the series, and one of few Bond women, played by Diana Rigg. She plays Teresa Di Vincenzo, who Bond falls in love with. She's the first woman that he actually, she's the only woman that he says to her, I don't think I'll ever find another woman like you, will you marry me? It's a big deal for Bond, and these somber moments really work particularly well for the film. The film has those moments where it slows down. It's not bang, 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 bang all the time. There are some great action sequences, obviously, but it's the softer moments that really elevate the film and bring out the human side of Bond, which I think works so well in this particular outing. So Diana Rigg, she's less a Bond girl and definitely much more a Bond woman. And of course, she's the most influential woman in Bond's life. She's the woman who he marries, and within minutes of marrying is killed by Blofeld and his assistant, played by the wonderful Ilse Steppat, actually, a German actress who very sadly died shortly after she made On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But another great presence on the screen. It's just such an important character in the Bond timeline. And not until Vesper again in Casino Royale do we see it's a woman who has such a profound effect on Bond and his opinion of women as well. So it's a very big deal. The relationship between Bond and the female in this film. We don't have Bond ordering a vodka martini either as well. I think the producers quite rightly decided not to emulate Sean Connery on the screen. They have George Lazenby's Bond ordering, rather strangely, a malt whiskey and branch water, but then of course he is impersonating another character. He's impersonating Sir Hilary Bray, so he's putting on the voice, he's specifically ordering a drink that he wouldn't normally order, but it works for the new actor playing James Bond. And of course, it's such a sad sequence at the end of the film. It's a real turning point in the series on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it does stand up as one of the best. There are some great scenes in the film. There are some scenes that aren't particularly great, but the scene with Bond pacing M's office towards the end of the film before he launches his attack on Blofeld's complex is just superb. The relationship between Bond and M is particularly good in this film. Really, really good. A step up actually from the last few Sean Connery Bonds. So I mean, there are a lot of wonderful moments in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It is in the top 5 of the James Bond films without a doubt. It's such a shame, therefore, that there isn't a great film to follow on from it. Diamonds Are Forever could so brilliantly have become almost a revenge story, the first James Bond revenge story in the series, with Bond trying to hunt down Blofeld. But unfortunately, it just turns into a horrible mess of a film. But in terms of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's up there as one of the best. Is it a perfect film? Not in my opinion. It isn't a perfect James Bond film, but it's certainly up there. It's 8 or perhaps even 9 out of 10 for me. So that's my review of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Please feel free to share your opinions with me on my film blog, Film Fanatic, and James Bond will return with my scathing review of Diamonds Are Forever, so watch out for that one, it's on the way.